A brief look at a vintage postal cover from Israel and the Israeli Postal Service. As is often the case, when I come upon an item that I find particularly interesting, I research it and end up doing probably a video about it. I figure if it interests me, then there's someone else who will also enjoy hearing about it, and such is the case with the item I'm about to tell you of. I have an Airmail cover with the letter written on the other side. I cannot ascertain the date of the letter for sure. In fact, I cannot read any of it because I don't read the language. So if any of you can read this, please help me out with a translation. Of course, it is Hebrew. Because of the lot of material I received this item in, though, I believe the letter to be from the late 1950s or 1960s. Here is what little I do know. This was sent from Jerusalem by Rabbi B.I. Minzberg. I tried to find the background information on this rabbi, but none seems to be available online. The letter was sent to Dr. V.K. Volk on Town Line Road in Saginaw, Michigan. I have been able to establish that Dr. Volk was a highly respected physician and worked with the community health, but other than that, I know nothing. The area of the postage stamp shows what looks like a winged deer. There is an area of slight damage to the left of that, but it doesn't affect the stamp portion at all. So unfortunately, unless one of you can help me, that is all I know of this particular piece, other than it is a very interesting postal cover with a very unique looking letter. But this piece inspired me to look a bit into the postal history of Israel. But before I get into that, once again, if you know anything about this particular rabbi, or you can provide any portion of a translation of this, let me know, and I will give you credit and I will update this video. But as a Christian, I have a tremendous love for Israel and for the Jewish people. On May 14th, 1948, the ancient nation of people returned to their homeland and have dwelt there with overwhelming odds against them. They had a powerful ally in the United States of America, and I said had because I don't really understand the position of the current administration on Israel, but it doesn't look good. The first postage stamps were issued 2 days after the rebirth on May 16th, 1948. The postal history builds on many, many years of development of postal services in Palestine. During the rule of Mamluks, mounted mail service was carried on in Deir el-Balah, Lydia, and other towns on the Cairo to Damascus route. During the Ottoman period, postal services relied upon Turkey's stamps. Foreign consulates set up the early post offices. During World War I, the British-Egyptian Expeditionary Force occupied Palestine and demarcated stamps marked as EEF in 1918. It was during the British Mandate that postage stamps and services were provided by British authorities, at first using temporary stamps issued in February 1918 and the British Expeditionary Forces in Palestine, and in February 1920 issuing permanent stamps bearing the imprint Palestine, Eretz Israel. From 1933 to 1948, mandate services included airmail stamps and, as an innovation, air letter cards. British postal offices and operations were in part turned over to the Israeli government. In May 1948, as the British withdrew and postal services broke down, the provisional government issued overprints on Jewish National Fund stamps, and ad hoc postage was created in Nahariya and Safed. In 1948, stamps were issued by the Israel Post, the Israeli postal operator, because Saturday is a day of rest. Sunday, May 16th, was the first business day after independence was declared on which stamps could be sold. The first set of stamps was entitled Dor Ivri, Hebrew Post, meaning, because the country's name had not yet been chosen. The first set of definitive stamps included values of 3, 5, 10, 15, 20, 50, and 250, 500, and 100 mils, or 1,000 mils, excuse me. The stamps were printed by letterpress, perforated, or as a rouletted variation, and with Israel's emblematic tabs with marginalia about the stamps. Stamp booklets were issued for the 5, 10, 15, and 20 mil stamps. The Dor Ivri stamps were designed by Oti Walish using ancient coins from the First Jewish-Roman War and later Bar Kokhba revolt. Israeli stamps are trilingual in Arab, English, and Hebrew, following the practice of the British Mandate of Palestine as required by the League of Nations. Israel Post first issued postage due stamps and gutter pairs in 1948, airmail stamps in 1950, service stamps for government offices in 1951, and provisional stamps in 1960. The tabs have gone through 3 unofficial phases. From 1948 to 1954, the tabs were written in Hebrew, with 4 exceptions: the Maccabeah, Israel Bonds, Zionist Congress, and ZOA stamps. From 1954 until 1967, the inscriptions were usually in Hebrew and French. Since 1967, the tabs are typically Hebrew and English. Rarely a tab is matched with the wrong stamp, as with 2 mix-ups on some Dor Irvi stamps early on. From the outset, Israel created its own commemorative cancellations, including a first-day cancel for the new Dor Ivri on May 16, 1948, and cancels for the Mikbaya Games and its major cities the same year. By 1960, more than 325 unique postmarks had been designed. Beginning with the Dor Ivri stamps, too, Israel has provided first-day covers. For instance, on July 5, 1967, a first-day cover featuring Moshe Dayan was issued from the new post office in Jerusalem soon after the Six-Day War. Israel has 64 post offices in 1950, expanding to 114 by 1960, and after the Six-Day War to 178 branches by 1970. In 1955, 2 settlements in Negev began Israel's first mobile post office, a red truck. And by 1990, Israel ran 53 routes for 1,058 locations, including Israeli settlements in the West Bank and Gaza. Due to hyperinflation, in 1982 and 1984, Israel issued non-denominated stamps with an olive branch design, and these stamps were said to be dreary, yet convenient, insofar as they avoided the need for both the government and the customers to constantly update their postage. During the 1990s, Israel experimented with vending machines for postal labels, franking labels. The Klausendorf machines and their labels were withdrawn from service in 1999. 22 colorful designs were issued, including 12 tourist sites and 7 holiday season designs. Israel Post also provides the express mail service in cooperation with 143 other postal authorities. The Israel Defense Forces provided mail service for the military during the 1973 Yom Kippur War, for example. The IDF Postal Agency issued a series of postcards with cartoons to boost morale. Postcards show an Israeli cartoon character looming over Damascus, hail and fire raining down on Egyptian pyramids, and Judgment Day. In its early years, Israel issued stamps picturing the Jewish holidays, Jerusalem, Petah Tikva, and the Negev, the Maccabeah Games, and Independence Bonds. Every year, Israel issues a festival series to commemorate Rosh Hashanah. In 1948, the festival series featured the Flying Scrolls. In a self-reflective gesture, the Postal Authority also issued a souvenir sheet commemorating its own first stamps. In 1952, Israel issued its first stamp honoring a named person, Chaim Weizmann. Other honorees of the 1950s included Theodore Herzl, Edmund D. Rothschild, Albert Einstein, Shlomo Aleichem, Chaim Nahum Bialik, and Eliezer Ben Yehuda. I think I probably messed up some of those names, for which I apologize. The first woman honored was Henrietta Sold in 1960. The first rabbi was the Baal Shem Tov in 1961. And the first non-Jew was Eleanor Roosevelt in 1964. In 1998, Israel was the first country to honor Shinu Sugihara, who has since been honored on stamps from Gambia, Japan, Liberia, Lithuania, and Sierra Leone. Stamps were issued in memory of 2 Arab leaders, King Hussein II of Morocco and King Hussein of Jordan, in 2000. Researchers at Emory University found that through 2005, 161 Israeli stamps deal with women, though most do so anonymously. Of the 45 stamps dedicated to individual women, 11 concerned biblical characters, and 8 were fighters. and there was an unnamed member of the Jewish Brigade. Israeli stamps cover general themes including philately itself, such as the 1954 stamp exhibition in Jerusalem, as well as themes emblematic of the state such as Judaism and Jewish history. For instance, it is in its first 40 years, nearly 10% of Israeli stamps included archaeological motifs for intellectual and ideological reasons. The country produced a total of 110 new issues in the 1960s, 151 in the 1970s, 162 in the 1980s, and 216 in the 1990s. Israel Post produces several dozen new issues each year, 40 new issues in 2000. New issues have honored Israel Raka and Akva Ira Weiss, two UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and Mikorat, the National Water System. And since its 1993 stamp for the 50th anniversary of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, issued jointly with Poland, such joint issue stamps have been produced with other postal authorities, and in 1996, a joint Hanukkah stamp was issued with the United States in miniature sheet format, and this was Israel's first self-adhesive stamp. On January 27, 2008, a joint issue with the United Nations debuted for International Holocaust Remembrance Day. Stamps were also issued jointly with Germany in 2005 to honor their diplomatic relations, Austria and Hungary in 2004, Italy in 2004, Georgia in 2001, and Hungary in 2001. The Israeli Post has been forced on a number of occasions to withdraw certain stamps which caused concern in religious circles. In November 2006, a stamp bearing the divine name was taken out of circulation over fear that it may be treated with disrespect. Similar action was taken over a series that depicted passages from the Talmud. And that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this, and hope that somebody can help me with the translation on this letter. Thanks for stopping by, and have an awesome and blessed day.